Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Game Over Ottawa. Back-to-back episodes with Charlie and Maude, and I think
You sound so excited.
It's the Sens lost something to. I don't give a fuck. The Sens lost. Uh, we're upset. We're upset.
Oh my god, this is gonna be a rough one.
But you know who's never upset? You know who's always having a good time? So the folks over at Hyperdrive Hockey.
Hell yeah.
So, if you're tired of seeing us being all bummed out with the Sens, I think you should probably shift into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing in a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max, Daphne, and Kevin every Monday and Thursday for your fill on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Head to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. Okay. We have to talk about this game. So the Sens lose 3 straight. Yeah. Sens lose 3 straight. In the state of Florida. We'll get into the lineup later on, but just worth noting off the top, they decided to once again run 11-7, but I do want to do a bit more of a specific deep dive into that. By deep dive, we'll probably just repeat ourselves from Thursday night. But yeah, the Tkachuk Bowl, the night before the Super Bowl. How we feeling with this one, Maude? How we doing?
Okay, so obviously Matthew Tkachuk gets the last laugh, many laughs, laughing out loud with how bad the game was for the Senators' favor, and it's just so good for the Florida Panthers. But I thought Brady Tkachuk was probably the Sens' best player other than Linus Ullmark tonight. I thought Brady Tkachuk showed up and did his best today. I think he finished with double digits in shots and probably about like half of the team's entire shot total. I'm not sure what it ended up being in the end, but it was pretty close to that. And the captain showed up for this team tonight, and damn near no one else did. So in terms of the Tkachuk Bowl, I would say between the two brothers, they were pretty even tonight, both with 1 goal each and a lot of shots on net for each of them. But unfortunately, Florida is just the way better team. So it's another W for Matthew Tkachuk in the Tkachuk Brothers Bowl.
Yeah, of Ottawa's 27 shots, 11 of those were Brady. I did not realize
third.
That.
Yeah.
That is
Holy
insane. Shit. Another underrated stat, if we're just talking shots, Jake Sanderson with 6. So for a defenseman, pretty sweet.
So just between the two of them, that's 17 of the team's 27 shots from 2 players.
It's inexcusable, is what it is.
Yeah,
really.
That's a joke.
It's
like great job to the 2 of them, but everyone else garbage.
Everyone else combined for 10 shots.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh god. So yeah, with Brady, he opens up the scoring on the power play. And I gotta say, despite the fact that they did score, that power play leading up to the goal looked just as bad as any of their power plays on Thursday. On that play, though, like, it sucks he didn't get on the score sheet, but Giroux with an amazing diving play to keep the puck in the offensive zone gets to Stützle, who finds Batherson, who then finds Tkachuk all alone with all the time in the world to score on Bobrovsky. I
seem to have disappeared on the stream, by the way. Seems to have gone black on my side.
No, you're still there.
Oh yeah? Do you have a delay? Because for me, it's maybe it came back. I don't know.
Was it gone for a while?
Maybe it came back now.
You haven't. Oh, okay. No, you're back. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know why it disappeared.
back.
My bad. Technical difficulties.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, it's all good. But yeah, on this subject of Brady, if we're gonna talk about because if anyone deserves to be talked about right now, I think it's Tkachuk as far as anyone on the Sens. He's been overall, if you look at all the numbers since 2025 began, he's been having a bit of a rough go of it. Total 9 points in 20 games in the new year, but that's mostly because they had a 10-game pointless streak in there. So far in February, he has been a point a game. I believe he should have with that goal. I think he's got 5 points in 5 games. He was pointless against the back-to-back games against the Lightning, but he had 2 points in each of the wins against Minnesota and Nashville. So at this point, he's a point per game in February. He seems to be back on track, which is great because the biggest issue with this team is the star players just disappearing for long stretches. And of course, like we've talked about it forever, and we're going to talk about it later specifically, but this team desperately needs some help scoring, or at the very least getting those top players to wake up and start scoring. And then just in a freaky way,
it seems like the I was gonna say, it seems like the star players on this team are never all clicking at once, right? Like we get Tkachuk sort of back in form in these last few games here, and then Tim Stützle goes a little bit quiet, and like he's on a point streak, but he's not like having a huge impact on the games in terms of like the tilting the ice the Sens way. And then I mean, there was a stretch where all of the top guys were cold at once. That's the one thing that I'll say about Brady's 10-game pointless streak is obviously it was really bad, but like the whole team was not scoring during that stretch. You had 2 games where the Sens got shut out in back-to-back games. So it's really tough to get everyone firing on all cylinders at once. And I do have to wonder if not really having consistent line combos that have really clicked, other than like Shane Pinto's whoever he's playing with on the third line seems to always be good, but the top 6 lines are just never clicking all together, right? Which is frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're gonna talk at length about this version of the 11-7 later on, because I definitely want to hear what you have to say about that, and I think we're just gonna get really upset again. The Tkachuk Bowl, Matthew Tkachuk ties the game on a very similar goal to Brady. Just he ends up with the puck in the corner, and I don't know, like I know we were just saying how like we were just saying some good stuff about Jake Sanderson. I think he overall did have a pretty solid game, but he bit so hard on that Matthew Tkachuk. Like, I'm definitely going to pass it. Like I don't know what Sanderson was doing. He wasn't covering anybody. So I don't know why he's playing that pass so hard, kind of moving out from his position in front of the net. He just gives Matthew Tkachuk a perfect lane straight to the net.
I think it was Barkov in the slot who was kind of pivoting. He pivots and he back skates a little bit back. For a second there, Sanderson was kind of in that passing lane, but then Barkov backed up so much that the forward who was on that side of the ice killing the penalty as well, then he was also in the passing lane, and then suddenly Sanderson's covering no one. And yeah, at that point, he needs to step up and try to pressure Matthew Tkachuk, at least get him to make a decision faster and maybe disrupt the shot if you can get your stick in there. So yeah, Jake Sanderson definitely the one to blame on that goal. But on the penalty kill specifically, I feel like they do this a lot where they leave one guy with way too much space.
Oh yeah.
We saw it against Tampa in one of those games where Kucherov had like in the exact same spot on the ice. He had like 10 seconds of holding the puck, like 5 to 10 seconds. And luckily he was trying to go short side and Ullmark did not fall for it. He just stayed solid on the post. So that one didn't end up hurting the Sens, but that seems to just happen frequently with the penalty kill formation that they run.
Yeah. Just the way that they kill penalties, there's so little pressure on whoever has the puck. I don't know what the fix is exactly. There's just no, like, they aren't being aggressive at all in the PK. And
it sucks because I feel like the Sens did a good job at like denying zone entries and preventing the Panthers from getting set up a lot. But then when they did get set up, then it's just like have your way, you know?
Exactly. No, exactly right. Exactly. It was tied. Despite the fact that, it was tied going into the second, did not feel like it should be. The Sens felt like they were fighting through the entire game just to stay alive. I think Ullmark has a lot to do with the fact that the Sens were in this game for a period. It definitely felt a lot more. I think I checked. I think it was after the first period. I checked the deserve to win meter, and it was something like 65% for the Panthers, even after the first, and that was the best period the Sens played all night. So
the one thing that I'll say about the first period is that I think the shot count made it look a little worse than it was. The high danger chances were actually split 3-3 in that first period.
Okay.
And obviously the Sens got the only goal in that period. So I think the first period was a little bit better than you might think, but then of course the Sens cratered after that and couldn't build
Fell
on
apart.
like a decent start. It was a pretty decent start on the road. Considering you got outshot, you get the first goal, and the Sens are usually very good when scoring the first goal. But these last two games, they score the first goal and then they don't score again, which is a huge problem.
Yeah. And I mean, just some other notes on the game in general, because like, I mean, we can talk about this absolute brutal, like, final 40 minutes of this game. Defensive breakdowns, whatever you want to call it. I think there's one goal I put on Allmark, and that's it. The Forsling goal.
Forsling.
Yeah, I'd say that's one he's got to have, but like,
Yeah. He would tell you that he would want that one back. I am frustrated by Hamonic and Clevin, neither of them
yeah.
stepping up on the shooter to at least try to disrupt him from taking that shot and not just being able to rip it cleanly by the goalie. And that same pairing made that same mistake in the first game against Tampa on the Brandon Hagel goal that gave the Lightning the 3-2 lead at that point in the game. It was like a carbon copy. So the same defensive pairing making the same mistake again was frustrating to see. But you are right that could have used a save from Olmark there. He saved so many other ones though tonight that it's hard to blame him for anything.
No, yeah, he's not the reason the Sens lost. The Sens gave up 4 goals, and he had a well above 900 save percentage.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Actually, just out of curiosity, because it's what, I mean, it was 5-1, but there was the empty net, so he's had what, 46 saves, 43.
Yeah.
No, 46 saves. I can't do math. 47 shots, 43 saves for a
9-15.
9-15. He had a 9-15 and he gave up 4.
Absolutely insane.
Can he get any help? For fuck's sake, can we get Allmark some help? Like,
it's so frustrating because like for quite a while there towards the end of January, the Sens goalies were playing quite well, but also the defense in front of them was helping them out a lot. Like specifically the Minnesota game, I remember that's like the easiest shutout you could ever see a goalie get for Levi Merilainen in that game. And then we get our best goalie back, we get Linus Ullmark back, and then we don't give him any help at all and just absolutely hang him out to dry. So that was really frustrating to see.
Yeah. Well, how do you? Okay, so I don't think it's the reason they lost, and I don't think you can blame this on. I don't think you can blame the loss on this, but there's been so much talk on. I don't know how much doom scrolling you were doing instead of watching the game like I was for a good portion of it, but there's a lot of talk about refereeing tonight.
Yeah.
General opinion on it tonight. How you feel about it?
Not great. But I'm struggling to remember what like the big issues were with the refereeing. Like when really Greg got the penalty for punching Sam Reinhart, I think Reinhart was kind of grabbing onto him already before that. So maybe you could say that could have been offsetting minors. And also the one where Matthew Highmore got goal interference. It was goal interference, but also Bobrovsky kind of turned into him. And then they jump him after, like to a degree where I feel like that could have been offsetting penalties as well. But it's I don't think it was a big enough factor in the Sens loss here tonight. Those are really the only moments I can think of where I'm like, maybe I think that should have been called a little bit different. But was there any other ones that I'm forgetting that you thought were crucial, where the refs were like should have done something different?
No, I mean there was a lot of talk about some other plays, like specifically on the two that you mentioned, like Greg was like grabbed pretty violently from behind by Reinhardt before he punches him, but like everyone knows it's the retaliation that gets the penalty. That shouldn't be surprising to anybody.
Yeah.
On,
Unless it's Matthew Highmore running the goalie, then the retaliation does not get a penalty.
That's true. That's a good point.
You can just headlock him.
That's a good point.
You can just jump on him and headlock him. So you know what?
Goalie's involved, right?
I'll say that's a little bit like inconsistent there. Just within this one game, is the retaliation got called on the previous one and then did not get called the other way.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting too that Lundell, the guy who put Highmore in a friggin' chokehold, is the guy who shoved. Oh, who did he shove? Was it Batherson? Who kind of cut off Highmore's route? Anyway, whoever was on the Sens that like kind of cut off Highmore's route and forced him into Bobrovsky, who like, he should sell it,
yeah.
but he sold. I mean, he sold it. He should though. Like that's a free power play. But it was Lundell who shoved a player on the Sens into Highmore, who then hit Bobrovsky as he was passing.
That is true.
And then Lundell gets really mad and puts him in a chokehold, and that's fine. But no, there were a few people on Twitter that I saw complaining, like there was like someone said that Batherson was tripped on his chance in alone on Bobrovsky. I think he was falling before he even got the shot on, and
You know what?
touched.
That one I'm not sure about, but that does remind me in the first period when Shabbat drove the net, he was tripped. And then like 30
Oh,
seconds
yeah.
later, then he
Then
got
he
an
took the
interference
penalty.
penalty. So
Yeah.
now that you say that, there is that one other one that was a little bit questionable. But it's just I don't think it was a big enough deal in this game that it really would have turned the tide or anything, especially because despite getting a power play goal tonight, the Sens power play isn't like a huge momentum changer lately. It's been kind of cold, so yeah, reffing could have been better, but it wouldn't have turned things around.
No, and I think this is one I'm confused about. I didn't see any replay showing it, and I've seen people say, "Oh, the refs missed a too many men penalty on the Panthers," but then some people are like, the play-by-play guys thought that it was a too many men penalty because the Sens had there was a delayed penalty on the Sens, and Bobrovsky comes off, and the
Yeah.
Panthers have 6 guys, and I don't know if they had 7 at one point, and so I'm not sure.
I didn't see 7, but it could have been that it could have been like the guys played the puck before Bobrovsky was on the bench, maybe the guy who came on.
Oh,
maybe it was
maybe.
only 6, but Bobrovsky hadn't gone on the bench yet, and that dude played the puck, like the 6th guy. But I couldn't see it. I didn't see it on
Yeah.
any of the replays, so I don't know.
I'm not sure, but yeah, like I think overall reffing was pretty brutal, but like you can't like even if reffing was even, I don't think this team wins tonight. I don't think that's nearly enough. I think the Sens just kind of put together 3 stinkers in a row, which is a shame because there's just like, I know like the road is tough, but like it was 3 games with next to no travel between the 3 of them. I don't know. Is there anything else? I guess another thing worth bringing up, just because it's funny, empty net for the Sens with over 7 minutes remaining. That's kind of a funny bit. I kind of like that. Felt like,
Why not? See if you can get
Yeah.
some luck,
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Roy was in the running for the Sens coach job at one point, so kind of felt like, hey, taking a page out of old Patty Roy's book. One thing I want to touch on as well before we get to the lineup, unless you have anything else to add about the game, just like it stinks and like we're upset. And like overall, okay, we should say overall, as Sens fans, we're heading into the break in the playoff spot. This fan base is ecstatic about that. We love that. But oh my God, what an extra 2 points would have made in these last 3 games to just kind of
just
make us feel a little better.
Any 2 points out of 6 possible points that they could have gotten would have been huge. Like, I think just my main takeaway is that this team is still a playoff team, but they're looking more like a first round exit, losing 5, losing 4 type of team compared to a team that I am confident that could win around, specifically because Florida is a very likely first round opponent for the Sens, since that's
extremely likely. Yeah.
Since that number 3 spot in the Atlantic has basically just been handed to the Tampa Bay Lightning by the Sens, you're not going to catch up to them at this point unless a miracle happens. And assuming Toronto finishes second, Florida will probably stay ahead of them. Maybe not, but it's going to be Toronto, Florida, or probably Washington being the other division winner, because those are the only slots that the Sens can finish in, and those other teams aren't going to move around too much. So it looks like if you play Florida in the playoffs, you're probably going to get smoked. The team's going to have to figure out how to play against them and not get run out of the building if that is to be their playoff opponent. Washington and Toronto, though, the Sens have actually done pretty well against this year, so those matchups worry me less. But if you had to face Florida or hell, even Tampa Bay, those teams just like absolutely dunked on you this week. So that's a little bit depressing. It's the overall point is the Sens are still a playoff team and they should make the playoffs. But after this week, I'm less confident about them being able to win a round.
That's totally fair. It is worth keeping in mind that the Sens have beat both Tampa and Florida at some point this season. Granted, that
Yeah,
Florida win was Allmark stealing that win. Uh,
exactly. And he would have had to do that today for them to have any
yeah,
chance.
and he came close, like, to that
Yeah,
level of play as well.
pretty much.
Um, but yeah, one thing I also want to touch on is just how shitty that Sportsnet broadcast was. I don't know how
It
it
always
was
is.
for you, but like it was so jumpy, and it wasn't an internet issue. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. The stream would go, it would freeze for about 3 seconds, and then jump to where it currently is. And I was like, oh, I missed that play, so I hit rewind, and just on the playback, it's the exact same way. So it wasn't an issue of buffering. That's just
Oh wow.
the way I got it.
I had it over the air, over the antenna on City TV, so didn't have that problem on there. But also the last game against Tampa was absolutely busted on the TSN broadcast. So maybe there's just something weird going on down in Florida.
Could be.
Connection issues are happening. I don't know.
It could be. I know we aren't supposed to like Amazon, but it's really tough when they have by far the
Yeah,
best broadcasts out of anybody in the league.
they're probably gonna buy the rights in Canada anyway. I think they're gearing up for that.
Yeah, like we we have too many friggin' like monopolies in Canada. So I don't want that, but I do. I just want a good consistent broadcast team.
Hmm.
Anything else you want to touch on before we get into this damn 11-7 again?
No, let's get into
All right,
that after
let's get
after an ad read.
that's right. Let's get into it right after I tell everybody about Patreon. If you're looking for ways to help an upstart media company employing over 30 young journalists and analysts across Canada, and you got a few spare bucks kicking around, you can head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/the Game Over Network. There you'll find multiple tiers featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, exclusive looks behind the scenes, Discord benefits, merch discounts, opportunities to give us feedback, and you can join us for special live shows where you can interact with hosts as we launch more ways to improve your experience. If you're not able to spare a few dollars, we do have a free tier available so you don't miss out. And if you really want to help us, make sure to click like and subscribe on YouTube, rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app, and share our work with your social media of choice. That's patreon.com/the Game Over Network for tantalizing goodies. All right, let's talk about this 11-7 again. I don't know how much
The
new stuff we have to
amazing,
talk about because
yeah,
we
the
just, I mean,
amazing
we went
11
off.
7.
We went off on this on Thursday
Yeah.
night. Minimal changes as far as just like line shuffling. I mean, like Amadio wasn't on the second line this time, and Batherson got bumped up. Um,
First line Matthew Highmore. I'm gonna have to see what the
yeah,
time on ice ended up being.
yeah.
He only ended up with 13 minutes and 20 seconds, so he wasn't actually in the top 6. They ended up playing Amadio and Ostapchuk more than him, but to even just write that as your line combinations, even if that's like not what you end up doing, that just like don't do that. Like
Yeah.
that's just stupid. And he did have some shifts with Stützle and Giroux, so it's not like they didn't do that at any point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ridley Gregg 20 minutes because we have no
Yeah.
centers right now. We
I mean, that's
really need
fine.
Pinto and Norris back like as soon as possible.
It's so bad. It's so
I-
bad
If
without those two.
if either one of them is not ready for the first game back from the break, that's going to be a problem.
Huge problem. And you know, with them out for however long that may be, then you start to wonder if the Sens need to go looking for a center
Hmm.
come trade deadline. God, I don't know. Like,
It's tough because the three of them, when they're all healthy, that's a obvious 1-2-3 in the center core. So if you
yeah,
did acquire a center, you got to shift someone to the wing when they're all healthy, or have someone playing fourth line minutes, which wouldn't be ideal for the caliber of players that we're talking about. But then these guys get injured so often, specifically Norris and Pinto, that it's tricky.
yeah, I don't know what you. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm just gonna 11-7. We talked about this on Thursday. Did they just if we gave them a slight benefit of the doubt on Thursday, maybe they couldn't get someone there in time. We know now they just decided to run this instead of calling up a forward. Is there any way you can think of defending them on this? Or did they say, fuck it, the break's nearly here, just put these guys out?
It reeks of laziness because, and I don't understand, because you could say cap space, but why is Nick Cousins not on long-term injured reserve? Like, that dude might not even play another game in the regular season, as far as I'm aware, because he had surgery like a week ago, and I'm sure the recovery time is more than the minimum amount of time that you have to miss if you go on LTIR. So stick him on there, and then you can call someone up. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
It makes no sense. At the very least, outside of Matthew Highmore being a first line left wing, the lines do make a bit more sense than last time. It's just another example of getting Travis Hamonic in the lineup no matter what it takes.
Yeah. At least today, the ice time was almost dead even between Hamonic and Matt. The last game I was frustrated. Last game I was frustrated that Hamonic played about double the minutes that Matt did. It was more even today. So to me, that shows a little bit from the coach of being like, okay, Matt deserves it a little more. But we know damn well that after the break, Matt will be scratched for Hamonic anyway. So
yeah, and I think Hamonic was worse tonight.
Definitely.
Even worse than he was on Thursday or Tuesday.
Matt and Zub, by the way, the only defensemen who were not minus tonight. So in his 10 minutes, not bad for Matt and Palo.
No, not at all. And he had a couple of great plays. Specifically, the first one that comes to mind for him was, I can't remember who he caught up to, but he caught up to a rushing Panther forward along the boards, and made a really nice defensive play, stripping him of the puck.
Speaking of Zub as well, since I mentioned him, this is amazing. He is the only defenseman with a positive Corsi rating today. How the hell did he manage that? 16-4 and 14 against in terms of shot attempts. That's insane in a game like this where it was so lopsided for the shots. I can't believe that. That's crazy.
They must have been running. I mean, if Sanderson didn't, it was just Zub.
That's 5-on-5, by the way, too. I guess that's 5-on-5. Okay. If I go to all, then let's see. If I go to all, then he's minus by 2, but that's still pretty close to even. And also, considering Matt and Palo, it's kind of funny that he didn't end up being a minus, because at 5-on-5, which was all his ice time was 5-on-5. Right. 2 Corsi 4 and 19 against. So he did not get a minus, but absolutely caved in terms of the numbers.
Oh my god!
So it's so credit to him for not getting scored on while on the ice, but also it's not like he prevented very many chances.
No,
I should say that at least.
Yeah, thanks to Allmark for that one. Yeah, I think honestly, like, I feel like we can, like you I think you said it perfectly earlier, like, we can just kind of chalk up the 11-7 to laziness, and just not wanting to mess around with your roster and the cap with 2 games to go before the break. So as much as that sucks, it gives me some hope that, like, it's not just we need to play Hamonic, do 11-7. There is a possibility that Mountain Palo gets in the lineup over him after that. It's not going to happen, but because they ran 11-7, because they never even tried to call up another forward, there's just this little part of me that's like, it's possible that it wasn't all about Hamonic. They were just, they just didn't want to call up Halliday for some reason. I don't know.
I do wonder if part of the mentality was, our defensive play has been really strong this season, so let's just go with a defensive mindset and try to grind out like a low-scoring 2-1 win. But against Tampa and Florida, 2 of the best offenses in the entire league, that's a bad idea. Yeah, that's just a bad idea, and we saw how it played out. Pretty much anyone could have told you that that was a bad idea heading into these games, and that's how it went. That's exactly how it went.
For sure.
Very limited defensive ability in these two games, specifically tonight, and also it just neutered the offense so bad to only have 2 goals scored in the last 2 games. So, just brutal all around. I hope we never see 11-7 again for the rest of the season.
God, we can only hope. We can only hope. With that, we have put together a few, just because we just had a feeling that this wasn't going to be a fun game to talk about. So we've prepared a third period trade deadline kind of talk, and it's going to be, not that I think that the Sens shouldn't be doing this, but I think just because of how bummed we are about this this Florida portion of the road trip heading into the break, it's kind of tough to be really excited about talking to the Sens as buyers at the deadline. But like in itself, that should be an exciting thing, just to think about the fact that the Sens should be buyers at the deadline. So I say let's head on over into that section right now. But first, before that, I gotta let everyone know that fun fact: this internet-based show, we're on social media. If you're enjoying the show so far, you probably want more of this, right? So make sure you hit the like button on the video, click subscribe on our channel, and all the other Game Over channels as well. All good stuff. And make sure you check the notification bell so you're alerted when we go live. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please give us a 5-star rating or even write a positive review. Or like if you really hate it, a negative review, it's all about the algorithm. Like, you know, all press is good press. If you really like us, make sure to follow us on your favorite social media platforms. You can find the Game Over Network on Blue Sky at thegameovernetwork.com, on TikTok and Twitter at Game Over NHL, on Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn at Game Over Network. You can also find us at thegameovernetwork.com, where you can sign up for our upcoming newsletter, which I actually think the very first copy of went out.
Oh yeah, and
Just,
I believe it features an interview with me.
It
So
does.
if you want, so if you want that, go check that out.
It's a good read. It's a good read. That's at the third period button. There's the okay. So, Maude and I have both prepared 3 names, to go over. We did not compare them. I do know one of yours.
Yeah, told you one.
You told me one of them. There's a very good chance that somewhere our list is going to overlap. So, do you want to start with the one that you've already told me, or do you want to start at a different place? I can start. The possibilities.
I've got a different one to start with because
okay.
This one that I want to go with first is like the biggest fish, the biggest player that I've named for a potential target for the Sens.
Can I ask real quick? Did you go all forwards?
I did.
Okay, me too. Yeah.
I did mostly just because I don't think this team thinks that it needs a defensive upgrade.
Yep, that's fair.
Like the only thing I would say on defense is that I worry about left defense depth if anyone gets injured, but
for sure.
It's not as it's surprisingly
100%.
not as deep as the right side. We actually do have bodies on the right side when everyone's healthy, regardless of how good they are. Hamonic, of course, but yeah. So I'll go with the biggest name first. Specifically, though, before I go into that, I'll say that I was looking at the cap because the Sens really do not have that much space. So I was looking around on the Puckpedia manager mode, and if you put Cousins on LTIR, you also have Gregor and JBD on there. I think Noah Gregor will come back probably after the break, but at that point, he doesn't have much of a cap hit, so you would just swap him in and send down like Zach Ostapchuk or Matthew Highmore or something like that. That wouldn't affect the cap too much. It would be like roughly the same. If you have all those guys on LTIR at the time of the trade deadline, or even right now, it would give the Sens 2.45 million in cap space with room to have 1 extra skater. And that's a little tough because usually teams have like 2 or 3 extra guys on the roster. However, the one thing is that most of the Sens games for the rest of the season are at home. They've played almost all of their road trips already. So they could do this. They could kind of run with a smaller roster with not so many extra players because it's so many home games that if you do have injuries, you should be able to bring someone up from Belleville pretty easily, right? So I do think it's possible that we could see the Sens really push that cap space that they have, just because they don't have any of those huge road trips coming up where you would be screwed if you couldn't call
Yeah.
anyone up. But the big name player that I was thinking is Brock Besser, and we don't know if the Canucks are going to sell or buy at the deadline. They've done a mix of selling and buying, because obviously they had to sell off JT Miller,
Yeah.
and then they bought for Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor. So they're doing kind of a retool. The thing with Besser is, even if they're trying to make the playoffs still this season, they may not be able to get him to a contract extension. So that's why I could see him being available, even if the Canucks are in a playoff spot. And we specifically just need goal scorers on this team. I think having Brock Besser lining up next to Tim Stützle would be pretty damn sick. The thing is, you would need Vancouver to retain 50% of the remaining contract, which would get him down to $3.325 million. And you would also need Vancouver to take salary back. In this case, I was thinking they could take Forsberg's contract, and then you could take back one of their minor league goalies. Like there's that Seelovs guy who does not have good numbers in the NHL this year, but he did win them a playoff series against Nashville last season. So and then you send him to Belleville and then call up Merilainen to be the backup. So it would require a little bit of movement in terms of money to squeeze Brock Besser in, but I think that's like the best option if they want to go big name hunting. And also, I don't know how good the return would be for Vancouver, assuming that it's a pure rental. I think if other teams are able to reach an agreement with Besser and his agent and get a sign-in trade, then those teams will probably offer more, since they're getting him to an extension, and they could probably outbid the Sens, because the Sens don't have a lot of picks and prospects available. But if no one is really looking like they're obviously going to be able to sign Besser to an extension as a pure rental, I think that could be an interesting move. So what do you think about that?
The first player on my list was Brock Besser.
Yay, we're on the same page. I love it.
Like, it definitely felt like it was a lot more attainable when it sounded like Vancouver's going to ship everybody off, because it was like, oh, JT Miller's being a problem with Elias Pettersson. But it sounds like they're going to send out both of them anyway. Now that Miller's gone, I think they're just going to hang on to guys
turning it
and try
around
to
a
make the
bit
playoffs.
too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know how likely that is. He also has a 10-team no trade list, so I don't know how likely it is that Ottawa isn't on there. But you know, I feel like this is the case with anyone though. Like if the Sens are buying at the deadline, they're heading to the playoffs, and it's someone who's on an expiring deal on a team that's not making the playoffs, I think you waive just for the shot, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and he already plays in Canada too. So
yeah,
if it's a pure rental, it's possible.
yeah. I love the idea of, because I think, like, with all the line jumping that's been going on, there's been a little bit of Norris Giroux chemistry being found there. So I think that like a Tkachuk, Stützle, Besser, Giroux, Norris, Batherson top six would be just
that would be filthy.
Now who's the second line center though? Because Giroux would be playing
probably
right
Norris,
wing.
right?
You keep Norris there, but then like I guess you
would have
could
to
stick
flip.
Batherson on the left.
Yeah, you'd have to flip either Batherson or Giroux to the left, or get crazy and move up really Greg, and then move one of those guys down to the third line. Travis Green has liked to try to spread the offense out like that lately, whether that's a good idea or not, but that could be a possibility.
Yeah, and I think worth mentioning as well on my list, they're all gonna be guys that require some the other team holding on to some salary. Just because what this team desperately needs is a scoring winger, and they aren't cheap. They just, like, regardless of the cost of trading, they're just not cheap players. They're not cheap contracts.
Guys who score goals get paid, and Brock Besser had 40 goals last year. He's not on that pace this year, but 18 goals would still have him near the top of the Sens. I think Brady hit 20. Right? He's the only one who would have more.
Yeah. I think he's on pace for a good like 30 right now, which, like, there's nothing wrong with that.
And yeah, I think that would be the best possible player that the Sens could squeeze in at the deadline. In terms of fit and in terms of like caliber of player, it would be a pure rental though, I think, because
Yeah.
I did a little bit of looking ahead to how much cap space the Sens might have next year. And they don't have a lot of players to re-sign that would cost very much money, mostly just depth guys who won't be making large salaries. But the key question mark is Claude Giroux. You would probably keep him. You would probably want him to take a pay cut so that the Sens can spend more money on other players. I did a little bit of a just a sort of preview on maybe what the Sens could have in cap space next year. If you give Claude Giroux 4 million for 1 year, which is a decent pay cut, if you sign Adam Gaudette for 1.5 million, Cousins for 1 million, Clevin for 2 million, Matt and Paolo 1 million, and then you have Marilainen for like 800K as the backup, then with the projected cap, you would have about 6.4 million in cap space, and I don't think that would
Okay.
be enough. I don't think that would be
Yeah.
enough to re-sign Besser. He's probably going to
No.
be closer to like the 8 million range. It's pretty good though. And if Claude Giroux pulls like a Jason Spezza and just signs for like dirt cheap because he wants to win with with his hometown team, then maybe it could happen. But
Yeah.
I think Brock Besser would be a pure rental, but one that I would be interested in seeing if the Sens could win the bidding war for him.
Yeah. And actually, with that, I'll just jump into the next player on my list because this is someone who would fit under that cap a little bit better.
Okay.
I have no idea if he's available, and anything I've seen online has been, oh, Tampa really wants this guy. He's still under contract next year at 4.75, but Alex Tuck, I think, is a very interesting
Oh, I
choice.
forgot that his name was out there. So
Yeah.
I didn't even really
Now,
consider him, but you're right. You're
the
right. There was a
problem
rumor.
the problem is he's got a 5-team no trade list, and he's from Syracuse. He grew up a Sabres fan. So I don't think he wants to go anywhere. But the Sabres are in last in the East, and like, can you get much closer to home than Ottawa, if not Buffalo?
Yeah. How much term does he have on his contract, I
He's
wonder?
got 1 year left.
Okay, so if he did waive for Ottawa, then it's another situation, kind of like Besser, where you would need to work out an extension after the fact, or it would just be a rental.
Or
But he
sorry,
has an additional year, right?
he signed through next season as well
Okay,
at
so
4.75.
maybe like yeah, maybe he would waive for Ottawa, but maybe he's an American boy and wants to stay in America. I don't know.
I have no idea. He'd be a great fit too. I think he would complement Stützle and Kachuk so well as
Mm-hmm.
well. I think he'd fit in really, really well with in that same kind of spot that Besser would take. I don't think he'd be taking over the goal scoring as much as Besser probably would in that case, but I do think Tuck would be a great fit. And like, I don't know, like, the question is like, Buffalo was so close 2 years ago. Like, do they want to blow it up now that they're about to hit 14 years since the playoffs? Like, what are they?
Yeah,
I don't know what they're gonna do.
I think it depends on whether or not the players want to stay. It's like if Alex Tuck is like this place sucks, this team sucks, I want to go, then you got to get rid of him. But
Yeah,
also he is like pretty clearly one of their best players, like him, Thompson, and Dahlin. Is just like the easy top three on that team, so he might also want to stay and try to be part of the solution. I
yeah,
figure it's probably a situation where they would keep him into next year, and then if they really can't turn it around next year, then you ship him off.
yeah.
But it's probably his name is out there in the rumors because if they traded him with an extra year on his contract, they would get like an absolute haul back for him, right?
You got to think, and that's another reason why I think that I don't know if that's a possibility for Ottawa because with the Sens, as soon as a team puts up a first, you can't outbid them.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is even with Brock Besser, you would have to give up a first plus a little bit more, definitely. And I think Alex Tuck, because he has term on his contract, you would need to give up way more than that. And I don't know if the Sens could meet that price. But you are
Yeah.
right in that in terms of the team fit, that could be great. It could be a perfect fit.
Yeah, I do feel like the Sens are going to go into this deadline ignoring the fact that they have a first because I think if they make the playoffs, regardless if they have like if they end up with like the 18th overall pick, I think you just got to say, okay, here, let's get rid of this one.
Yeah, I think I've been hearing that next year's draft is stronger, right? So
Yeah.
It's a tough decision because if you keep the pick for this year, you still have more time to try to convince Gary Bettman to lighten the penalty. But also, if they think this draft year is not very good and we make the playoffs, then I wouldn't be mad if they just gave up this year's too. So
For
that's the
sure.
thing. That's the thing. If the Sens do trade a first, they're gonna have to probably have conditions on the pick saying that like, oh, we'll trade you this year's first unless we decide to give it up, and then you'll get next year's first or something like that too. That's something to consider. Or they could just give up. They could trade like the 2026 first, lottery protected, and then just give up this year's first for the penalty. It's there's some options with that. That
Definitely.
there's if they do move a first at all, it's definitely going to be conditional, hinging on that. I think.
Definitely. I think you're dead on with that. And yeah, like I think we both have Brock Besser at the top because that feels like a much more likely outcome than a lot of the others, just because he is on an expiring deal. Like on an expiring deal. He's a well-known goal scorer that kind of feels like a perfect fit if Vancouver wants to move him. Alex Tuck definitely feels like more of a dream scenario. Like I don't think it's as likely, but who do you have as your second player?
So shooting a little bit lower, a player that I would hope that you wouldn't have to give up a first round pick for. Both of my two selections remaining are in that category where like this guy maybe, but the other guy's definitely not. Ryan Donato, who's been talked about a lot, having an absolute heater of a season for Chicago. He's just like getting a bunch of ice time because who the hell did they have to play over there? But he's making good use of it. Uh, Expiring UFA, which is good. Then you're not locked into any future money unless you do want to re-sign him if he's a good fit. But he's currently only making a $2 million cap hit. So you don't need Chicago to retain on that. But if you're looking to make multiple moves, they could, and that would help a little bit. But if you take his full $2 million cap hit, the Sens would be left with about like just under 800K in cap space, again, with one extra skater on the roster. And to me, with Donato, it just comes down to the stats and like the just well-rounded game that it seems like he plays from looking at the stats. 19 goals he scored again tonight would be second on the Sens. 18 assists would be seventh on the team, and I believe fifth among forwards because Sanderson and Chabot are up there on
Right.
assists as well. 8 power play points would be pretty useful for the second power play unit.
Yes. Oh my God.
118 shots on goal is the key stat for me, not just the goals, but 118 shots on goal would rank fifth on the team, third among forwards, because again, Sanderson and Chabot shoot the puck a lot from the point. And we need a shooter, especially to play with Tim Stützle. And also, what I think that Steve Staios and Travis Green will like is he also has 88 hits, which would be fourth on the Sens. So this guy scores goals and he throws hits and he shoots the puck a lot. And also, despite scoring goals, he's also getting assists too. So I feel like this season, it seems like Ryan Donato can do it all. He's not like a long-term top six forward in his career. This is kind of his
Right.
first season where he's really having consistent top six level production, which is why I think you could get him at a bit of a lower trade value because like let me just compare to Brock Besser. I gotta bring it
That's
back up, but
yeah, let's be interesting.
yeah, like Ryan Donato and Brock Besser have like very similar stat lines actually because Besser he might have gotten a point tonight, I'm not sure, but HockeyDB has him at 18 goals and 17 assists in 48 games, and obviously he's had way better seasons like that in the past. But Ryan Donato pretty much equals that with 19 goals and 18 assists in 53 games. So a few more games played, but like for a cheaper cap hit and probably cheaper trade value, like I would expect the value on him to be like a second, maybe 2 seconds, or like a second and a third or something like that.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if maybe a team gives a first for him, but and at that point I probably wouldn't go for it. But this guy I think could be a really good option, especially because you can squeeze him into the cap pretty quick, like pretty easily, fit him under the cap.
I think it's a great. I think he's a great choice. Yeah, like especially if you're looking at is he would he be a rental? Is he expiring?
Yes, he would be a rental, and then I think because he's having a career year, he would be due for a raise. But if he fits really well, maybe you could get him around like 4 million or something like that. If he looks like
Yeah.
he would be a good fit in the top 9.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense. Like I think it's so tough because yeah, like you said, This team has little to no cap space. They don't really have much in the way of future assets to trade away. And like all that talk about like the Sens should trade for Elias Pettersson and trade away Josh Norris in that deal, and like just to make the money work. Like it's so tricky to find. Oh my god, there's like no assets to move. You have no cap space, and you need a top 6 scorer. Like it's
Yeah,
such a
it's
tough
tough.
position. It's so tough. I think honestly, like I think Ryan Donato is like the most realistic one so far. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I would say that my third choice on this list is probably a more realistic get, just because I don't think there will be as much of a bidding war for this player, but also it's a significantly worse get than Ryan Donato. Like it's not
Okay.
as good as he has been performing this year. So
We went opposite directions. I went like the toughest one for my third.
yeah, you're aiming even higher. Want to go for
I'm
now
Yeah,
then?
sure. I'm aiming even higher, and the reason it's even higher is because this player is on a really reasonable contract, and is currently on year 3 of 6. And this completely depends on whether or not the team wants to completely blow it up. And it hurts. It hurts that I didn't put Erik Karlsson on my list. My heart wants
Yeah,
it.
I
My
thought
brain
about it,
says
but
no. My brain
yeah,
says it doesn't make
you
sense
gotta
right now.
wait. You gotta wait until he's a UFA and then see if he wants to play one more year for cheap. Like that's the only way I can see him coming back.
Yeah, like the Penguins aren't going to retain 50% on his like because they're 10 because San Jose's holding on to 1.5 for his contract, I think, right, per year. So
I believe so.
I think
Yeah.
the Penguins are like, and if you're bringing him in at 50% retained and it's still 5, there's no way. There's no way.
hmm
So instead of Erik Karlsson, I'm calling the Penguins to ask about Rickard Rakell, and
Okay.
it's
Is
not
he?
going to be
Yeah.
cheap.
Right. Yeah. You said he still has term left.
Yeah, he's on year 3 of 6 at $5 million.
He's been great this year.
He's been great this year. He's been consistently like over his career. He's like a 20-goal guy overall through his career. If you kind of like just average it all out, he's been amazing this year. He's on a very team friendly contract at $5 million, especially if it's someone that you could probably like. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, you could put him on the first line with Stützle and Tkachuk. You could stick him on the second line if you want to put him with Batherson and Norris. Like I think he could fit on either one. You might even want to stick him on that top power play if the power play just still can't get things going. I think that's reasonable as well. The problem is the price of acquiring him, because that's going to be a first and stuff.
hmm
And I don't
I
even know if he's
think.
available. It just because didn't the Penguins say they're not trading Crosby? So is that like
Yeah, I
we're
believe
not
so.
gonna blow it up, or is that just like we're gonna play Crosby till he retires around a bunch of nobodies? I don't know what that means, but
If you're keeping Crosby and Malkin and Letang this whole time, I don't really see why you want to sell off the only other good
yeah,
players that are surrounding them. Like maybe they will, but they could use some help to at least keep the games entertaining while they're
for
especially
sure.
when it's guys with term. Like if Raquel was expiring UFA, then yeah, they definitely trade him like they did with Gensel last year. But like you said, because of that term, it's probably going to cost a lot. Like he would, because of the term, I think he would cost more than Brock Besser would at the deadline.
For
And
sure.
Tuck maybe not, because I think Tuck's a better player, but he's got less term. So that's the thing. It would be difficult to swing a trade there, I think.
Yeah,
But he's
that's
a
it'd
great
be
player.
very
I would love
tough.
to see. I would love to see the Sens add him.
Yeah, I'd love to just see what's up with that.
hmm
Give Dubas a call. Say, hey man,
Definitely talk to him about it.
yeah, like are you like selling anyone? Like what's the deal? Um,
hmm
and I feel like that's a
Maybe
similar
Brian
thing to
Rust, if he wants to
Buffalo.
sell anyone. Maybe an older
Yeah,
player in Brian Rust. Who
why
knows?
not? That would have probably made more sense for me to put down. But I was like,
I
who
don't
do I round up
know.
my list with? And I was like, I gotta go for the dream.
Yeah,
I gotta go big.
I don't know what Rust's contract is anyway. He might also have a lot of term. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
just
don't know.
remembered that he exists and trying to think of like who else uh Pittsburgh might move.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's not likely. I do think that out of anyone of my 3, I feel like Besser's the most likely, which means my list is pretty unlikely. But I think
That's
out of
funny.
yours so far, and you like you said, you have another one, probably the easiest to acquire, you said. But so far, I am like you've completely convinced me on Donato. So
It's funny, yeah. For your list, Besser might be the easiest to acquire, and for my list, he's the hardest to acquire. Um,
we went in different directions, very different directions.
yeah. Before I go into my last player, I'll just give a couple honorable mentions, which is just
Sure.
like teams that are going to be sellers, and these guys are not top six forwards. But if the Sens, instead of adding a top six forward, try to just go the depth route, like I know Bruce Garrioch has mentioned Brandon Tanev as a possibility, especially because Nick Cousins is injured, might not play again this season. Like he would fill that role as pretty similar player, I think. Scott Lawton is in trade rumors as always. We know Pierre Dorion liked him. Maybe the new management does as well. And then for my third player, I went with Gustav Nyquist. This is not like the sexy pick or anything like that because he's having a bad season. But the thing is, it's a bit of a like overcorrection, I think, because last year he had way too good of a season to the point that it made no
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Last season was 75 points for Gus Nyquist. This year he only has 9 goals and 11 assists in 52 games. But we know that the Predators suck complete ass, and everybody on that team has way worse offensive numbers than they should, except for like Philip Forsberg. Maybe
Yeah.
he's probably still doing pretty good, but everyone else sucks. And Nashville also specifically has no centers. Like they have Ryan O'Reilly, and then can you name their second line center? We played them this week, and can you even name their second
Oh
line
my
center?
God, that is such a good question.
Yeah,
um,
I know who it is, but I forgot until I was looking this up.
who's on the second line?
I don't even know if this guy is getting like the second line ice time anymore, but I know that he was like the second line center last year.
This is gonna drop. Okay, hold on.
So my main point here is that I don't think Gus Nyquist is playing with very good players. I would have to look up to see who his most common line mates are, but I don't think he's on the first line.
Is it Colton Sissons?
Now I don't actually know if Colton Sissons has more ice time, but I think Tommy Novak is the player I was thinking of,
Oh, okay.
who was also really good last year, but then sucks this year, can't get any points. So I think Nyquist is in a bad situation this year, but we know that he's a good player over the course of his career. Not
Oh
as good
yeah.
as he was last year, but he also shouldn't be as bad as he currently is now. And the thing is, he's signed pretty cheap. If Nashville retains half because the contract is expiring, he would only count 1.6 mil against the cap, and you would still have another 1.2 remaining for a little bit of room, either to add another depth player or just to carry an extra skater on your roster, compared to only having one extra player. I just think this is a likely option because he's having a bad year. I think you could get him for like a third or a fourth round pick.
Yeah.
And he's a veteran. He's like 35 years old. He's had 77 career playoff games. So I think that management will like that to bring in another veteran player who can try to help lead the team with his experience. So I think cheap acquisition costs and a guy who has been better in the past than he has this season could be like a good buy low opportunity for a rental, you know?
Yeah, I was looking at Nashville and I considered Nyquist just for a second, and then I was like, no, I want to be dumb. I want to be dumb about my list.
Yeah,
Um,
you
God,
shot for the stars.
I did. That 75 points last year is so funny. Um, yeah, honestly, I could see I could see them acquiring both Donato and Nyquist, and I think
It's
it would.
possible, yeah.
I think it'd be a pretty productive deadline if they did that. Um, Even if like you just have to live with David Perron being your second line winger that you like, that feels like an acquisition towards the deadline. That's fine. He's been looking great the last couple of games as far as like, the rest of the team. I think he hasn't looked worse than a lot of guys on the team in these brutal
Yeah,
losses.
for sure. I do think if they got Donato, though, I think Donato would slot in ahead of him, at least to start. I think you would try
Yeah,
Donato in the top six because he's been able to produce top six numbers this season. And then if it doesn't work, then
for
you move him
sure.
down.
Yeah. So you imagine that third line of what, Perron, Pinto, Greg, and then a fourth line of Nyquist, Gaudette, and then like let the other
Probably
guys fight over it.
Amadio.
Yeah, I guess Amadio. I mean, do you want to put Amadio on the fourth line? Or the third? I guess
Well,
so. That's good
well,
depth.
if you
That's
acquire
really good
two
depth.
forwards, if you
Yeah.
acquire two forwards, you're not playing them any higher in the lineup than that.
Yeah,
So,
that's some good depth. That's
mhm.
some really nice depth. What's Nyquist's contract right now?
It's 3 point something. The retained amount was 1.6 million, so it's like 3.1 or 3.2 or something like that.
I mean, if you can get them to hold on to half of that and give them a
Because that's
third
not a
and
lot of
something.
money. If they retain half of that for the rest of the year, that's not much because there's only like
Yeah,
30
that's
games
true.
left, you know?
That's true. Interesting. I think you have a better list than me. I think you have a much more realistic list.
Well, you went for the like, oh my god, you went for the if we made this trade, everyone would freak out and it would be like a blockbuster. You
Yeah.
went for those options. I went for more like, we don't have much cap space. What can we fit in with that cap space? You know,
Exactly.
without moving major contracts the other way.
Yeah, which is so tough to do. Again, just like you outlined, like even if Giroux takes that big pay cut next year, it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be very tight. Cool. All right. Well, little trade deadline talk, because there's we're about to go into the break, and then there's like 4 or 5 games before the actual deadline, and a couple of those games are gonna be Canadian matchups. So we won't have 2 Ottawa hosts to go over this kind of stuff. So we figured let's play it safe and do a little bit on that right now. I guess with that, we'll head over into our overtime section and take a look at the chat. But first, I gotta let everyone know that we have merch. So say bye to Maude just for 1 second. This time
Bye
she's
bye.
disappearing. She's disappearing on purpose this time, I promise.
Yeah.
So what better way to support something you love than by repping it on yourself? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Or 3 unique lines, whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie, or if you just need another coffee and two to get through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady of Game Over Winnipeg, use the QR code on stream now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. It's good stuff. I always say this like every single episode when I talk about this, but I have the 2 hoodies and they are nice. All right, let's head on over to our final section of the show here. And first things first, in the chat, Grant says, don't look at the chat, LOL. It's a quiet one. It's a quiet one, and I find that like when we first started the show, I thought that the Saturday night chats were going to be the ones that really pop off. I find they're some of the quietest.
Yeah, I think weeknights people are like staying in, and they might
Yeah.
be more likely to tune in live. And then the weekend, it's like people have plans, after the
Yeah.
game, or they're like out of the house watching the game, stuff like that. So
Yeah, sometimes I forget that like people are different than me and they don't make their weekend plans around the Sens game.
yeah, other people have lives, unlike me.
Yeah. And so it's a quiet one, but we got a few things to take a look at here.
I'll say Rusty Carr with a bit of positivity is that at least Boston and Columbus lost tonight. And I think this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show, is that the Sens still should be a playoff team. I think this week showed that they are not in that upper tier. We thought maybe they had a shot at third in the Atlantic. I think that's out of the question now. But I think we are better than the Boston Bruins, and we should be better than the Columbus Blue Jackets, but we haven't played them yet this season, and we're going to have 3 matchups against them.
That's gonna be crazy.
In March and April. So it is yet to be determined if the Sens are better than the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's going to be really interesting down the stretch. So huge that they both got regulation losses tonight, and I believe both of them allowed the game-winning goal in the last 2 minutes of the game. So they both almost made it to overtime,
Wow.
and they both lost 4-3 today, both of those teams. So a little
Holy.
bit of luck for the Sens on the out-of-town scoreboard.
That's such an interesting storyline for the season too. I didn't even realize. I mean, I guess I knew this, but I never even clocked it. Yeah, not one game against the Blue Jackets yet this season, and like,
Yeah, it's bizarre.
I think, other than Boston, I'd say Columbus is the scariest team out of the East to take over Ottawa's spot. So 3 games towards the end of the season against them, and like those are all like, I know it's not going to be like it's not like an like a game within the division, those are still going to be like 4-point games.
Exactly, because they're going to be battling for those wild card spots. Um, Unlikely that either team would be able to get into the top 3 in their division, so it's going to be huge.
It's going to be so fun to watch those, or horrible, and we're going to be really sad. Either way.
Yeah, or depressing.
Something cool is going to happen. Let's see here. Also more positivity from Rusty Cart. While yes, Sens should have won at least one of the 3 games, the amount of growth this team has this season is amazing. The team still figuring it out. You can they're slowly coming along. And like, yeah, like I tried to be a little positive at the top of the show where I was like, hey, listen, as a fan base, we're very happy this team is in a playoff spot going into this break in February. There's a very real possibility that they're going to be in a playoff spot come the beginning of March. Like, it's a huge deal. It's amazing and it's a positive, and we are focusing on it's the recency bias of it all. We watched this team lose 3 straight in regulation in what are extremely important, like, prove it games against, granted, teams that are pretty much across the board. Everyone agrees these teams are better than the Sens, but it would have been nice to see some wins. But yeah, the point is they are in a playoff spot. I think, you know what, that's actually a pretty good point too. They lost 3 straight in regulation to teams in their division, and they're still in the playoff spot.
Yeah, that's huge. I keep saying ever since like the win streak in December it's like, regardless of how they got here, if you told me the Sens would be in a playoff spot at this point in the season, then I would be like, yes, that's great. I'm content with that. So
100%.
Even though, like you said, the recency bias has it being like a little bit depressing at the moment, it's all about like the current streaks and stuff like that. Because, for example, Detroit being 1 point behind us, if we were like lower in the standings and went on absolute fucking heater like Detroit has been on with like 13 wins in their last 15 games or something like that, we'd be so hyped right now. We'd be like, oh my God, we're in a playoff spot. This is sick. Instead, we got into a playoff spot in December, and we've been in it. We might have slipped out like once or twice since then, but we've routinely been in a playoff spot since then. So then it almost feels a little bit mundane, right? It's like, oh, this is the new normal. So then when you do have a losing streak, it's like, oh no, the sky is falling, even though we're still in a playoff spot. So the current streaks of each team can really change the optics, because if the Sens had just like barely scraped into a playoff spot right now on the back of a heater, we would be so hyped. But they've been in a playoff spot and they're still in a playoff spot. So even though it's a bit depressing right now, it's not an issue really, you know? They just got to come back after the break and get back to winning.
Yeah, and they have, like you said, they have so many home games for the rest of the season. They have one of the easiest schedules as far as like total like average winning percentage as far as their opponents go for the rest of the season. Things should it should be good. This should be a team that doesn't have to struggle their way into the playoffs. It should be fairly smooth sailing from here on out. Like, it should be okay. I think this team should make it to the playoffs pretty easily.
Yeah, you probably said this when you read the comment, but Rusty had also said at the start of the year people were talking about trading half of the team. Yeah, we were in November after another bad Ottawa Senators November. We were talking about should we break up the core? Should we trade star players off of this team? And the core, for the most part, has turned it around and proved that they can win with this core. It's just about getting a couple pieces to support them, I think, at the trade deadline, as we were talking about in the last segment. So considering how this season started in the first 2 months, it's looking great right now.
Oh, for sure. And they were what, like, I've 8-11-1 in my head.
Yeah, they were something like 3 games below 500 at least.
Brutal. And then they turned it around, which is awesome. But it'd be great to see like an extended like consistency. This team wins 6 and then loses 6 of 7 and then wins 5 in a row and then loses 3 in a row. Like, can I just get like a month of win 2 and lose 1, please?
Exactly.
Please?
That would be so good for like the mental health of the fan base, you know?
God, yeah.
Because it's really like big winning streak and then mild losing streak. Like, because right after the December winning streak, I think we lost the first 4 games of January and only got 1 point. We got 1 overtime loss. So, and then we won 5 in a row and then lose 3 in a row. So you're right that they've been so streaky, but at least that means they're probably likely to go on a winning streak again at least.
I like that. I like that point of view. I haven't thought about it like that, but that is true. And I believe it's not the easiest. Let me just pull it up really quick because I think it's just about time to wrap up the show, and I think I kind of want to take a look at what's going on later on. So, after the break, the first few games post break, you got the Habs should be a win.
Should be, but who knows?
should be a win. Habs first game back. Then the Jets, rough. That's okay. Rough.
That's tough, but I feel like the Sens have played the Jets well in the last 2 seasons, surprisingly enough. Like last year, if I remember correctly, on home ice, I think it was an overtime loss to the Jets, like 2-1, and we beat the Jets in their arena last year. And then this season, it was a 4-2 loss in Winnipeg, but we had Sogard in net, and we were up 2-0. So that was a goaltending special there, where if we had Merolainen or not Forsberg, but if we had Merolainen or Ullmark in net for that game, we could have won. So I feel like the Sens strangely played the Jets pretty well lately.
Yeah, and speaking of good teams that the Sens play well, the Caps are coming up shortly after that as well. But it goes Habs,
Again.
Jets, Sharks, Caps, Blackhawks. So it's
The
a
way
fun
this
mix
team-
of really tough teams and really not so
Yeah.
tough teams.
The way this team likes to go, we'll probably lose to Montreal, Chicago, and San Jose, and then beat Winnipeg or Washington.
Maybe.
I feel like that's the most Sens possible outcome there.
Yeah. God.
But
Not fun.
what is that? 6 games or 5 games back? Yeah, 5 games
5.
after the break. As
5
long as they
games,
win
yeah.
as long as they win 3 of those, then that should be fine. Like no
Yeah.
matter which 3 it
They'll be
is, as long as they
firmly-
win 3.
Yeah, they'll be firmly in that buying spot for the deadline if they do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, and then the first game back post deadline is the Rangers, and then the Red Wings. So that's gonna be
Those are huge.
Depending on how
especially
that
the Red Wings.
Yeah, depending on how the wild card race is looking at that point, those might be insane games. And then the Flyers, which not so much an issue, but then the Bruins right after that. Leafs, Habs.
God.
My God. Oh God.
Yeah, so maybe we really do need to get those wins against the bad teams.
Yeah, definitely do. Oh my God.
Sens can't beat Chicago though. Like I was saying,
what's up with that?
they've played Winnipeg well recently, but I don't remember the last time we beat Chicago. It was probably like 2016 or something. Like just a joke. So hopefully we don't get absolutely wrecked by Connor Bedard again in that game. But hey, I'll say I think things are looking pretty good. I think we managed to get some positivity in here, even though this week has largely sucked for the Sens and tonight sucked. I think things are looking up. I think things will be a-okay in the end.
I think so.
What are you looking at?
The Chicago Blackhawks are 9-1 in their last 10 games against the Sens.
Yeah. And I can't even remember that win. I have no idea.
Oh,
it was
you know
probably pre-COVID.
No, it was how old is this page? Have they played the Blackhawks this year?
No,
not yet.
Oh, so we'll play them twice.
The Sens won 2-0 in March of 24.
Okay, so 1 win in the last 10 tries against the league's worst team.
Yeah, and they're not. Oh, some of these are rough. 3-2 loss, 5-0. 4-3, 6-3, 5-1, 3-2, 8-7, 4-3, 3-2. Some of those are rough.
I remember the 8-7 game. We still had Stone and Duchesne at that point. So it was them doing all the scoring, but they got outgunned by, I think, Kane and DeBrincat on the other side. That was a really funny game.
God. I'm pretty sure I did the Game Over episode for that 5-0 loss.
Oh, God.
That was in March of 23. And if it was in Chicago, so the game started at 1 a.m. for me because I was in the UK. Oh, awful.
Bad times, but positivity, Charlie. We're trying to be positive at the end of the show here. Sens in a good spot despite 3 straight losses.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning specifically. The Sens have played themselves into such a good position that they can lose 3 straight games against teams within their division, and they're still in. Are they still in the top wild card spot, or do they get knocked down to 2?
Top, yeah, because Detroit's 1 point behind.
There you go. Okay, so they're still in the top wild card spot, heading into the break. Everyone cross your fingers that Tkachuk and Allmark are going to be fine through the 4 nations. Nothing's going to happen. We're not getting Hasek flashbacks right now. It's totally fine. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to be okay. Yeah, I think honestly we could probably like talk in circles about this forever. So let's just call it a night. Let's call it a show with that one. Hope everyone has a great like extended break from the NHL with the 4 nations coming up.
A great 2 weeks until we're back on this channel.
Is anyone planning on watching? Like, if I accidentally
4
turn
nations,
the game on,
I don't give a crap. Like,
yeah.
But I was kind of thinking like, oh, maybe we can do a segment about the 4 nations tonight, but I just don't care. I can't even bring myself to care remotely. Like, I might throw on the games if I'm bored, but nah, don't care.
Yeah, if I accidentally like stumble across one, I'll be like, yeah, I'll watch this. But like, if someone makes plans, then whatever, I don't really care. Which is a shame because like we've been talking about like, best on best on an international level for so long now since the NHL stopped going to the Olympics, and like this isn't what we meant.
Best on best without 2 of the top 3 scorers in the league in Draisaitl and Kucherov, and also without a guy like Pasternak because for some reason you can't include Czech Republic. They had to make it just 4 teams. So it's
because it's an NHL specific event, right? So it needs to just be.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not ideal.
I got the dead camera now, so.
Oh, that's a sign. Let's call it a night, everybody.
That's time to wrap it up.
Yeah. All right.
Got the beautiful freeze frame of me there.
Yeah. If anyone's super excited about 4 nations, be sure to let us know in the comments. But yeah, we'll catch everyone next time. We will be back. It's gonna be Saturday, February 22nd. It's going to be Damien with K for Game Over Montreal, and that's going to be a home game, so it will be on this channel. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Damien will be back with another crossover. So we will all see you in a while on the 22nd. So have a great night, everybody. Enjoy what's left of your weekend. Try not to let this loss get you down too much. Enjoy your Sunday. Don't need to be sad about the Sens and having the Sunday scaries before we all go back to work on Monday. So we'll catch you guys later. Maude, any parting words before the 4 nations face off? 4 nations facing off.
I do not care.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's see you guys later. Have a great night, everybody.